Hi, I hope you're well. This podcast is a place for people to share personal and professional perspectives, to talk openly and to ask questions. From serious to silly to sublime, it's all about communication and connections. Always coming from a place of kindness and curiosity, we talk about shared humanity, discuss ideas, and highlight people creating a better world. We've got to keep learning, keep growing, keep being. I'm Melissa Shear Beek, and this is Beek on Being. Today's episode is Beek on Being and the Great American Songbook. When I think of the pop and jazz songs that really stand the test of time, I think of greats like Rodgers, Hammerstein, Hart, Gershwin, Porter, Berlin. They're inspirational. Fitzgerald, Sinatra, Armstrong sang those standards. Bette Midler, Rod Stewart, Harry Connick, and even artists of today remake albums with these standards almost 100 years later. What contributes to their longevity? We're going to talk about all of that and so much more. Here today we have Jack Viertel, producer and co-producer of a multitude of Broadway musicals, such as Patti LuPone's revival of Gypsy, dramaturg for Hairspray, Dear Evan Hansen, The Outsiders, and many more, senior vice president and creative director of Broadway's Jujamcyn theaters, artistic director for the Tony-honored ENCORES series. He is a New York Times bestselling author, and if all of that wasn't cool enough, he began his professional life playing bottleneck national steel guitar for Bonnie Raitt and the Pointer Sisters. So welcome. We are so excited to have you on the podcast. There's so much to discuss. Oh, I'm thrilled. So there's so much to discuss. So let's start at the beginning. Tell us more about you and where your love of music and Broadway and all of it came.
Well, my parents and my grandmother, Daisy, took me to see Peter Pan when I was just about to turn 6 years old with Mary Martin. I'm an old person, so, and that pretty much ruined my life. I mean, I didn't want to do anything after that except theater, although I had a few interludes along the way in this longish life where I stopped doing it for a while. But basically, that was, how I wanted to spend my life, in a theater. And that
sounds perfect.
With the exception of those little moments when it went away, it's been that way ever since.
That's amazing. So how did you go from playing music to being a writer to an artistic director to a producer? Like, what were the steps along the way?
Well, the music part of it, which had nothing to do with Broadway or Broadway music for that matter, happened because I went to a summer camp in 1960 that was run by a couple named John and Ellie Seeger. And John Seeger was Pete Seeger's brother. And so I learned to play the guitar there. It was not really a folk music camp, strictly speaking, but it was, it was heavily musically engaged. And this was in 1960, was the middle of the folk boom, so to speak, the commercial folk boom. You know, the Kingston Trio had Tom Dooley at the top of the charts. And the people at this camp convinced me that there was actually a more authentic kind of folk music. And one of the counselors took me into a cabin and played me a recording of the blind Reverend Gary Davis singing Samson and Delilah. And it was like Peter Pan. I was cooked again. So now I had two parallel lines to go along. And I learned to play the guitar at camp, and I never got all that good at it, but I was okay with it. And I was introduced to Bonnie Raitt, who was, I think, a freshman at the time in college, and I was a sophomore, maybe, something like that. And we started to play together. And of course, we had this natural connection because her father was John Raitt, who was a big musical theater star.
Yeah, sure.
And she was a blues and rock fanatic. So we were doubly connected. And it just grew out of that.
Incredible. And so how did you segue from playing music to going into, I said you said you were a dramaturg, but can you tell our listeners what that means, what that entails?
I should say that I actually started out in my professional career as a theater critic, not a dramaturg.
Right.
And I did that for 7 years and realized that I was, much to my shock and amazement, that I was in the newspaper business and not actually in the theater business. So I had to get out of there before they made me a city editor or something. And I became the dramaturg at the Mark Taper Forum, which is the big not-for-profit theater in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And what that entailed really was everything from working with writers and directors on new work to doing research if we were doing a classic like Hedda Gabler or Shakespeare, and giving the actors context to work with and that kind of thing in the rehearsal room,
Right.
and writing. I ghost wrote the artistic director's welcome to each audience, which he then
Wow.
edited, but I wrote the first draft. Um, and so it was all kinds of things. And dramaturg can mean anything. What it has come to mean for me mainly is, sort of an old gray beard about how you structure a musical, how you work on these things, what the elements are that you need, and trying to help younger artists who are very talented but don't have the experience and craftsmanship yet, how to do that.
How to navigate through that. Okay, got it. So, what was your first recollection of theater? Not just going with Peter Pan, but like getting involved in the theater. Like, how did you
Well,
segue into?
I was a very good actor in high school. It was a very small high school. And because when you're a kid and you go to the theater, what you see are the actors. I assume that that's what you do if you're interested in the theater, is you're an actor.
Right.
By the time I got to college, or halfway through my freshman year in college, where I did a couple of plays at the like with real people in a much bigger world, I realized that I was actually not a very good actor at all. I was quite a terrible actor. Uh, but by that time, I had learned that there actually are other jobs in the theater.
In the theater,
Um,
yeah.
yes, right. You could be a producer, you could be a stage manager,
Right.
you could do props. There's a million things you could do.
Right.
So, from understanding that I was not a great actor, or even close to a great actor, and that I would never be a professional actor, I moved into other areas. The first of which was actually a musical one. Was producing concerts of folk artists, and which
Oh,
really taught
cool.
me how to produce in a funny way. No, I wasn't producing theater; I was just producing. So I knew, I learned about ticket sales and advertising and all that kind of stuff because of the music stuff, not because of the
Right.
theater stuff.
And how did you get from the music stuff to the theater stuff?
That's a good question. I think I kept going to the theater. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
all the time I was doing this.
Yeah.
Um, and I think what happened was I got this job as a theater critic. We moved to Los Angeles after we got
Uh
married, my
huh.
wife and I. And a
Mm-hmm.
friend from college had a friend who was starting a free weekly newspaper, and they needed a theater critic, and they were going to pay me $35 for every review that got published. So I went to work for the Los Angeles Reader as a theater
Wow.
critic. And then I got hired away by a real newspaper, an actual non-free newspaper,
Right.
called the
Right.
Herald-Examiner. And that was my first legitimate job where I could pay the bills every week.
But it kept you going to the theater, so that's fabulous.
Yeah, I went to the theater more than ever before because I had to
Yeah.
publish, 3 or 4 pieces a week. So I saw plenty of, really terrible theater, and I saw some really good theater. And that was an education. That was an important education. The good, the bad, and
Right.
the indifferent, over and
Yeah,
over and over
that's true.
again.
I guess it helps you appreciate all the great ones even more.
It did, and it also, because I had to write about it, it taught me how to think about what worked and what didn't work, and why I had a good time
True.
on Tuesday but a bad time on Thursday. And you
Oh,
just learn
wow.
learn this stuff almost by osmosis.
Yeah, that's true. You learn it by doing. That's great. Oh my God. So, do you remember your first sort of theater with the great connected with the Great American Songbook?
It's a good question. I grew up with the Great American Songbook. My family
Right.
was a theater family, right? My father was briefly a playwright. His father built theaters, including 2 Broadway theaters, as a general
Wow.
contractor, not as the
Uh
owner.
huh.
Although he did end up owning a theater briefly in the Depression, because he got it. It was the person he was remodeling the theater for was bankrupt, and so he ended up owning the theater in
Wow. Where
1934 and
was that?
35 or something like that. It was on Broadway, and between 46th Street and 47th Street.
Yeah, sure. In the
Uh,
theater
was-
district.
yeah, it was actually on 50th Street, to tell you the honest truth. But he converted it into a very ritzy nightclub, and it went bankrupt over the course of a couple of years. But this was
Oh,
the Great Depression, so
yeah.
everybody went bankrupt.
Everybody was
Um,
going to go bankrupt.
yeah. So the theater and the world of those songs, which the Great American Songbook, if you look at it as the pre-Rodgers and Hammerstein songbook, Irving
Right.
Berlin, Gershwin's Porter,
Yes.
etc.,
Yes.
was already long over by the time I came along. But did we have all of the Ella Fitzgerald records in our house? Yes, we did. Did we have all of the original cast albums from shows like Oklahoma and Carousel? We
Oh,
did.
yeah.
And
Had to.
and then in and then I grew up with those songs. So and the more I listened to them, the more curious I got. So I went hunting for stuff by Kurt Weill and Jerome Kern and others,
Yeah.
kind of not the most famous ones. Um, Although in his day Jerome Kern was, but uh, and it just grew. I mean, I didn't separate it from modern musicals. The first show I ever reviewed for the Reader was Annie, the
Uh-huh.
national tour of Annie, which does not
Uh-huh.
have a Great American Songbook score. I love that score, but it's a
Right.
modern, it's a post '60s score.
Right.
I didn't make any distinction between that music and Gershwin. It was just all great songs.
Yeah. Well, okay, I want to talk later about why those songs have such an emotional impact, but we'll get into that later. But so can we talk about what your definition of what the Great American Songbook is?
Um, it's an eccentric one, I think.
Okay.
My definition of the Great American Songbook are the songs that were written as operetta was going out in the United States, which would have been
Mm-hmm.
1927 probably,
Right.
um, up through Rodgers and Hammerstein's beginning, up through Oklahoma. And while there are
Right.
great songs from in the 40s and 50s that are part of the Great American Songbook, I guess that because they were written for Broadway at a time when they were inventing songs about characters, songs that forwarded the action, all those things that hadn't been done
Right.
until then, they tended not to be as universally popular as some of the older songs, which are much more generic, which are, I love
Right.
you, why don't you love me? Someday the man I love will come along, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
That's a
But
good one.
so some of the Rodgers and Hammerstein songs are great as they are. They're just because they're about specific characters,
Right.
they're not as easily translated into the general world.
True.
So
I
for
want to get
me, the
back to
Great
what you
American Songbook ends at that point, but actually it doesn't because many wonderful songs that are in circulation today were written after that.
Okay, so I agree with you on this. I think it kind of ended then, but I think it was the foundation for what came afterwards. Because I
No
want to go
question.
back to what you said about operatic. So we can go back to sort of like Tin Pan Alley, and there was a combination of music going on at that time, like European opera, jazz, blues, ragtime, stuff like that. So can we sort of start before the Rodgers and Hammerstein period and talk about
Oh, sure.
like okay, let's start
So
with around Tin Pan Alley.
in the early part of Broadway history, most musicals, half the musicals, were written by European composers, and
Hmm.
they were called operettas, which is a terrible name for them because that
Right,
makes it sound like they were small baby operas. An operetta, they were not
right.
babies at all. They were huge spectacles, like um, Rosemarie and the New Moon
Oh
and all
yeah.
those shows. Um,
Uh-huh.
what's the famous one about the chic? I can't remember the name, but anyway, they had exotic locations and women who fell into the arms of big strong men, and
Right.
this was in the teens and 20s, and all of that I think was accompanied to some degree by musical songs that came from vaudeville that were much lighter and
Mm-hmm.
less and more American, and then in the 20s also I think largely through a show called Shuffle Along written by two black artists and entirely produced and directed by black artists, uh, jazz began to enter the wider vocabulary of white people,
Right.
and most of the songwriters who were active in that period, the Porters and the Gershwin, particularly Gershwin, but all of them really,
Oh
Richard
yeah, I think
Rodgers,
Gershwin was like Rhapsody in Blue was the birth of symphonic jazz for me.
they were all using these new, much more urban tempos and much more American sounding uniquely American sounding ways of composing than the European operetta composers, who were no less talented necessarily. It just
Right.
their era came to an end. That's all.
Right.
So it really a lot of it, I suppose, historically speaking, you would credit to Showboat, which was written in the 20s,
Oh yeah.
and which was sort of looked at through a very hard lens. I mean, it's a great show, but is sort of half operetta and half modern, and
Right.
it's a transitional show.
It's
It's
the
also
right. I
a
was gonna say it's
masterpiece,
the
but
bridge. It's a masterpiece, but it's the bridge.
yeah, right, exactly. It's a
Yeah.
neat play. Um, and that was Hammerstein and Jerome Kern. And
Right.
Hammerstein then went into a tailspin all through the 30s, and then started working with Rogers in the 40s, and that was the making of his fortune
Career. Yeah.
and his career and his legend.
Yeah.
But Showboat really, in a funny way, started it all.
I think so. I agree with that. So, who or what were these composers inspired by at the time? There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think to a greater or lesser degree, depending on which composer you're focusing on, they were certainly trying to combine this new urbane jazzy sound
Right.
with with a lot of the time a kind of Hebraic sound, because almost all of
Right.
them were Jewish, and
Right.
many of them grew up on the Lower East Side or in Yorkville, and so they
Yes.
had these two strains of music that they were working with, and they invented something new. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. It's
It's magnificent.
based on a whole bunch of sources that they had. It's like you have you go down in a gold mine and you pick up different pieces of gold, and then you
Right.
have a lot of gold.
I have this vision of them on the Lower East, so just opening up the window and just hearing all of the sounds that they combined together from what they brought over and
Absolutely.
what they heard. And yeah, so,
But I mean, they were hearing pushcart vendors, and they were hearing
right.
all kinds of essentially melodies that were brought from Eastern Europe.
Yeah,
And then you could get in a subway and go up to Harlem and hear, go to the
exactly.
Cotton Club and hear Duke Ellington. So it all combined to make this incredible bouillabaisse that, is the
Yes.
American popular song.
It is. It is. It's the Great American Songbook. It's amazing. So is there like a certain melody or rhythm or chord arrangement that made these songs particular to what we consider the Great American Songbook? Like
Well,
what's the universal connection
there
there?
was essentially a formula for songwriting, which
Okay.
held sway for a very long time, which is a 32 bar form.
Right.
It's two A
Eight.
sections, followed by a bridge, followed by a final A section. And
Right.
90% of the songs written during that period all follow that exact pattern. But there also were things like I Got Rhythm, the chord changes of which have been used by literally hundreds of composers since, and they know they're
Right.
doing it. And jazz
Right.
improvisers, no, you say, play the rhythm changes, they just start to play. I mean, you don't have to play the melody of I Got Rhythm. Uh,
Right.
but the theme from the Flintstones is written over the rhythm changes.
It's so true. That's right. I didn't think about that. Right. It's going to be sung in my head now for the rest of the way.
Yeah, well, it's not a bad one if you have to have one.
It isn't. So, what was the impact of these Broadway musical songs at the
Well,
time and then also today?
it was tremendous at the time, and for a couple of different reasons that had nothing to do with the songs themselves, most especially the advent of radio.
Yeah.
Radio came in 1920, and by about 1925, everybody kind of had one. And so these
Right.
songs could be broadcast in ways that, were completely revolutionary. So the
Mm-hmm.
songs were kind of revolutionary. The distribution method was revolutionary. And people people took them up all over the country and eventually all over the world because they spoke to them in
Yeah.
usually very plain English. There were some very ambitious, complicated ones, but by and large, they talk to you about your own life, your own ambitions, your
Right.
own hopes and dreams, and your own sorrow, and they were very clear and
You could connect to the
poetic.
content.
Yeah, poetic without being T.S. Eliot poetic. They were
Right.
just
Right. Easily understood.
yeah, easily understood,
Oh,
but elevated beyond what you would have said yourself if you had to say it yourself,
Right.
because these
Yeah.
lyricists were writing in a very, very skillful way.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite lyricists from that time?
Oh, there are a lot. Some interesting. Some of the ones that I loved when I was younger, like Cole Porter,
Oh,
they
yeah.
haven't been supplanted, but they've been joined by people like Irving Berlin, who
Mm-hmm.
strived incredibly carefully to write simply.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was young, I thought, oh, well, he's just a hack. He's just, his work is so
Oh.
simple and everything. Over the years, I've come to realize that A, I was an idiot for thinking that, and
Right.
B, there's a sincerity and a touching quality in a Berlin ballad that's often
Yeah.
missing from a Porter ballad. I mean, no one's
Yeah.
cleverer than Porter in that period, but
Right.
often those ballads are very overwrought. I've got you under my
Oh.
skin.
Oh, I
Whereas
love them.
I know, but Berlin writing these very simple, songs. It wasn't easy to write simple. I mean, he
Right.
had to revise and reflect and redo, and he had to know exactly what he wanted to say. It was never well, sometimes it was a cliche, but it was generally not a cliche. It was an embodiment of the people's music. He really felt
Oh,
he was the people's composer, and Porter really
right.
felt he was the sophisticate's composer
Right.
or
You know, Ha-
songwriter, music and lyrics.
I mean, I think they're both geniuses in their own right.
No
Harry
question.
Connick Jr. did a whole, and I've been to it many times because I love Harry Connick Jr. and I love Cole Porter, but he does a whole show with just Porter music. It's
Yeah,
brilliant. Oh,
yeah.
love it.
No, it is
I
brilliant.
mean,
I'm actually
those,
working on a Porter show now that I don't want to talk about, but it's not new songs, obviously, but
right, right.
yes. Anyway,
Okay, off camera, you have to
so
tell me more about that because I'm
okay.
100% interested and I need to see it. So,
Well, I can say this much: it was a show called The New Yorkers that Porter
mm-hmm.
wrote in 30 or 31, I think, which we did at Encores, and which there's now some commercial interest in. But it was fun. It was fun to do. It was not all
Okay.
Porter. It was 80% Porter. And then Jimmy Durante, who was the co-star of it,
Oh, I love Jimmy
brought
Durante. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he brought his own material. So he did Jimmy Durante songs, and the rest of it was written by Cole Porter.
Okay. Oh, I
It's
need to know
funny.
more
I mean,
about this.
it's just about alcohol and sex. Those are
Right.
its only two subjects,
Jimmy
and
Durante
violence.
subjects. Yeah.
Yes, right.
Right.
Yes,
Right. Right.
gangsters,
Yeah.
bootleggers, high
Right.
society people, and Jimmy Durante.
Right. And Jimmy Durante. Love it. Love it. Okay, so we talked about the impact then, but what about the impact now? Because I feel we're gravitating to these musicals. I feel every time I go to a new musical, there's something that has that sort of emotional impact that I got from all of the Great American Songbook musicals. Do you feel that they're still influencing Broadway today?
Well, the Great American Songbook musicals, if you use my eccentric definition of the Great American Songbook,
Like Oklahoma,
di-
South
didn't
Pacific,
right.
those
But the
kinds.
earlier ones, the ones that predate Oklahoma,
Right.
for the most part, have not been influential as shows because the
Yeah.
shows were ridiculous. A girl had sat on a waffle iron and she had a scar on her butt, and that's how
Right.
she was
Right.
found.
Right.
This is not the kind of show that we do today.
Right. Right. No.
It was part of the fun of doing encores, whether you actually could do a show like that. But beginning with Oklahoma, the musical play started to grow, and the songs from those shows stood up in a different way. And as I said, they weren't necessarily all quite as accessible as the songs from the earlier shows, but many of them were. Certainly, if you look at Oklahoma, no one is going to sing "Poor Judd is Dead" in a nightclub.
Right.
But on the other hand, people will say "We're in Love" is a pretty good song.
Oh, it's a great one.
It's a great song. So, there were plenty of songs that continued to live. And I think the reason that they continue to live today, to the extent that they do, which is not 100%, is music lifts your emotions in some way. And if the lyrics are simple and clear and about your emotions, the music carries them to a place where they're still affecting. We may
Right.
not
You're
still live in a
transported.
world. Yeah, we may not still live in a world where some of the things that are sung about happen, but
Right.
there is a you can make your own metaphor about why that's still a great song.
Right. It's
You
relatable.
know, yeah, it's relatable. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And
You know,
yeah,
and
I do. But I feel that way too. I feel like what you said, that the music and the lyrics sort of transport you. Because when you go to something like Wicked or some of the other big ones, you get that connection, that feeling. You're not in the same situation, but you understand the emotion. It's impacting you. And like you said, there's a metaphor for something in your life that still kind of connects you to that.
right. I mean, the big difference I think, or a big difference musically between kind of the end of the golden age of the Broadway musical, which I would guess is the '60s sometime,
Yeah,
and now, or everything that followed, which is now 50, 60 years worth of shows, is that rock and roll had become a national music. So a
true.
lot of the theater music employed rock elements, which of course hadn't existed in Rodgers and Hammerstein's prime. Okay.
So we got cut off for a second, but I we were talking about post songbook era musicals. So can you tell us a little bit about your work post songbook musical era?
Sure. Well, I mean, my work on shows started in 1987, by which point the Great American Songbook was,
Long
a
done.
very active museum, but not still being created. So, I worked on whatever there was to work on, but I was hired to help artists put together shows, help independent producers put together artistic teams, that kind of thing. And
What were some of the first ones you did?
I'm trying to think what the first one I did was. What was the first one that actually came to light? I think it was probably Jelly's Last Jam, the Jelly Roll
Oh,
Morton
yeah, I
musical,
remember that.
and then Grand Hotel and City of Angels, and
Good ones.
going forward from there, a lot of them, and Hairspray, and I really had nothing to do with the
Love that
producers,
one.
but I always put it on my CV because I was working for the company that produced it.
Love it.
And on into Christmas Story and Dear Evan Hansen and The Outsiders, and I'm still doing it. But
I think it's fabulous.
none of these were golden age musicals, nor did they have Great American Songbook songs in them.
Yeah, but you're still involved in that theater. That's magical.
Yeah, I did work
So
on the
what are you
revival of
working on
Guys
right
and
now?
Dolls, on the revival of
Oh,
Guys
sit
and
down,
Dolls that
sit down, sit
Nathan
down. You're
Lane
rocking the
and
boat.
Faith Prince starred and Jerry Zaks directed, which was just a magnificent version of that show. I have to say, I can't take any credit for the magnificence of it, but it was fun to work on and it was great.
What are you working on now?
Well, I'm working on sort of on this New Yorkers show, the Cole Porter show. I have a
Oh,
new
okay.
show about New Orleans. Oh no, it's a show using New Orleans music through the years. It has a very very slender story, which I actually created, but it's pretty slender. But the music is great. I mean, it's a fantastic bunch of music. It's from 100 years ago to now,
Where
and
can we see that?
you can't yet. I'm
Not
hoping it'll
yet.
be.
Okay.
I'm hoping it'll be available. I'm hoping we'll actually have a production of it. We did a production of it at the Phoenix Theater in Arizona last summer, and I'm hoping we'll have a production up by next summer.
Where? In New York or?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
in
Well, I
New
have to
York.
get there to
But
see that then.
wishful thinking sometimes comes true and sometimes not.
No, yeah, we're going to manifest that.
Okay, good.
So, what is the involvement that it takes when you say you do creative directing and different kind of co-producing? Like, what is it your day entail when you're dealing with this?
Well, back in the days when I was working for Jujamcyn on those earlier musicals, it was a lot of meetings with the creative types, and in some
Mm-hmm.
cases the producers as well. And we were often a producer. Jujamcyn was often a producer. My interest was really in the material. There were other people who were more interested in casting and advertising and marketing
So, were
and
you dealing with
management.
mostly writing and editing, or?
Yeah, writers and directors mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and on many straight plays as well as musicals, probably more straight plays than musicals at the time,
Uh-huh.
because Jujamcyn had 5 theaters, and generally speaking, 2 of them at least, sometimes 3 of them had straight plays in them, and the others
Hmm.
had musicals. So I was working on all kinds of stuff simultaneously. I worked a lot with August Wilson and Tony Kushner and
Oh,
uh, you know
wow.
Terrence McNally and people who were bringing plays to our theaters.
That's
And
fascinating.
Yeah, it was great. It was
Did you
an
pinch
incredible gift.
yourself?
Did I pinch myself?
No, did you pinch yourself? Like your
Yeah.
dream as a young man was
Oh
to be
yeah.
in theater.
Absolutely.
Now you're living it and you're going through it. I mean,
Absolutely. Our offices were on 44th Street in the top floor of the St. James Theater, which was a
oh,
theater I
you're
had
in the
been to
heart of it.
many times to see shows. And I would walk down 44th Street saying, "I can't believe I'm walking down 44th Street."
Right.
I first walked down 44th Street when I was 13 years old to box offices to buy a ticket for a matinee in the balcony. And now
Oh,
here I was, they were paying me every week to walk down 44th Street. It was amazing.
incredible. Do you need an assistant? I
Not at the
volunteer.
moment, but I'm not on 44th Street anymore.
Okay. But just to be involved in that, it seems magical to me.
It really was. And it often, not often, it sometimes mirrored what you think of when you think of, oh, this is a 40s movie about a show that's in trouble in
Yeah.
Boston. And, those things actually happened. And,
Yeah.
and,
I love that.
and simultaneously, I was dealing with them and also being nostalgic about the fictional ways in which I had encountered these kinds of situations. With the temperamental
Oh,
composer and the
right.
impossible producer and the star who's drunk all the time, all that stuff that you
I
see in the
love those
movies.
movies. I
Yeah.
love those movies.
So that
Oh,
that was
so
that was
fun.
great fun. I mean, there were some terrible mistakes made and flops produced, but even that's fun in its way. Not fun
Yeah,
on
but
the
that's
night
a
that
learning
not the night it
experience.
happens. Yeah.
Right.
It's not fun the night it happens.
So what's the most difficult part of doing all of that?
I think in a funny way, the most difficult part was building trust with the people you were working with. Because generally
Okay.
speaking, they were the artists who had made the piece,
Right.
unfinished as it may have been. And there was no reason to think that I knew better than they did about their
Right.
own work. So it took a lot of learning about how to
Hmm.
talk to artists and how not to talk to artists.
Right. I bet.
Yeah, in my
You don't
book,
want to mess with their vision.
early in my book, I describe a situation in a bar where Lanford Wilson almost threw a margarita at my head. You learn a
Oh,
lot from an experience like that.
right.
Um,
It's
so I learned little by little, and he and I became very close eventually, but not that day. Uh,
right, right.
and and so
Later.
yeah, I learned to try to perceive what they were trying to do, reassure them that I was not trying to change what they were trying to do, that this was their show,
Right.
not my show. Uh, you know,
You were just going to help
I used to say the first rule of dramaturgy is don't talk if you can listen. So, I would be the last one to speak often because I was just absorbing what the artists were attempting and trying
smart.
to fashion a response to it that was within what they were trying to do and not saying, well, if it was up to me, I'd set the whole thing on a submarine,
Right.
um, which is always a mistake.
Yeah, you're lost at that point.
Yeah.
So what's the most exciting part of everything that you do in the theater?
I'm not sure there is one. The most fun for me has always been actually sitting in a room with the artists with a scene that we all know doesn't work and trying to figure out how to make it work. That's like a
Us.
puzzle.
I
It's
was
a
just going to
it's
say you
a
like puzzles.
it's a delving into human emotions that may be clear
Yeah.
or not clear in the scene as it exists. It's structural. There's a million things that you can think of that might be wrong or right about any given scene or any given work. And that was, I think, more fun than sitting in the theater watching the finished product, which I always
Really?
found nerve wracking.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't unfun, but it was,
Right.
It
Nerve-wracking because
was,
you're waiting for the audience response, because you wanted
yeah,
to see if everything that you had done had come to fruition. What was the
all of
nerve-wracking
that.
part?
And
All of it.
did they laugh at that joke or didn't they laugh? Well, they laughed last night. I don't know why they didn't laugh tonight.
Right.
And they're having a good time or they're not having a good time. They're starting to cough. They're starting to sneeze. Worse yet,
Right.
they're starting to look through their programs.
Oh no, you don't want anybody
Then
to look
you're
away
in
from the
trouble.
stage. Right.
You're in trouble at that point. So that all of that is very anxiety producing. Whereas when you're
Yeah,
sitting
I
in a
bet.
room with the artist, there's nobody there to tell you that's a terrible. This is no one likes this. You're just
And you're
there
all
trying to
together
make the
working
thing
for the same goals, so it's
right.
exciting to work and
Yeah,
collaborate.
and then finding
Wow.
out whether you reached it or not on stage in front of an audience is nerve wracking.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, anxiety producing.
It's funny that the movie director Robert Altman said the most mortifying part of making any movie is sitting with an audience for the first time watching the rough cut of the movie. And
I can
because
imagine.
they have nothing at stake, they're not your friends,
Right.
you can feel when they hate you. And it's an awful
Ooh.
feeling. And then you got to go back and re-edit the movie or make the movie better somehow. And sometimes you can't make it better. So, but
Yeah,
that was much
that's
harder than anything you ever had to deal with actors or cameramen or anything like that. It's just watching the
yeah,
thing with strangers. And I agree
right.
completely.
Oh, yeah, the stress of that response. Wow.
Yeah. It's fun when it's
Too
great.
much.
It's fun when it's
Yeah.
great. And a couple of
Sure.
times, really only a couple of times, two or maybe three times, you had a show that was a hit right from go.
Do you know
And you had to make it,
instantaneously?
yeah, you had to make it better and make it shorter, maybe, or do this or that. But you could just smell the success of it. It happened with Hairspray. It certainly happened with the
Oh,
producers, which, as I said, I didn't really have much to do with. Um, but they were very rare. Usually half a show works or three quarters of a show works, and some of it doesn't work. And some people like it better than others, and whatever. When you get one where we did a reading of the first act of Hairspray for a bunch of potential co-producers and investors,
now
and
I'm
at the end
singing
they
Good Morning Baltimore
at the end of
in
the
my
reading,
head.
it was only the first act. At the end of the reading, the audience was sort of throwing money at us. I mean, it was not literally, but figuratively.
Right.
And it was
But
just I rarely experienced anything like it.
do you feel that energy shift immediately? You know.
Yeah, you know when that's happening,
Yeah. I can imagine it's only
and when
electric.
it's not happening.
Yeah. But that feeling, like I just, like I said, in my head, I'm singing Good Morning Baltimore now in the
Yeah,
opening, and I can almost feel the electricity of that.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
It,
wow.
it,
That's
I mean, there was
exciting.
lots of work to do on that show, but it hit the nail on the head right from the beginning.
Oh, agreed. 100%. So, so back to the songbook though. Do you think since it's been so influential the last 100 years and artists are still recording those standard sort of albums, do you think it'll still be influential the next 100 years?
I don't know. Music has changed so much
Hmm.
that young people today, I mean, people being born now, it's a long way away. I mean, those songs
Yeah,
will have been hundreds of years away, and
right.
I don't think they'll vanish, but I don't think they'll be dominant in any way.
Or appreciated the way that they were.
I think some people will appreciate them in the way that some
Right.
people appreciate, German Leader or or Gilbert and Sullivan. Um,
Right.
but there are fewer and fewer. I mean, when I was growing up, Gilbert and Sullivan were still everywhere,
Right.
but no more. Hey, very
No.
occasionally.
Yeah. Oh,
I
that's
mean,
a shame.
that's the way the world works, right?
Yeah, that's
Stuff
true.
gets
But it was such
sloughed
a
off over the centuries.
yeah, but still, I mean, there are things that stick over the centuries. When you think of great
Yeah,
composers and great lyricists, there are things that just stand the test of time.
I think these will stand the test of time. I think the enthusiasm level of people who are basically into a completely different kind of music will not be what it was. In the same
True.
way that it
Okay.
isn't for grand opera and it isn't for classic
True.
song or even classical music. There's there's
Right.
there's a lot of people who really never listen to Beethoven anymore. Many more
Oh,
who don't than who do.
Right. That's true.
That's just the way it is.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Okay. So, any great other fabulous stories you want to share with us about all the wonderful things that you do that you can say on camera that I won't press you off camera on?
And, I don't think so. I think you've sort of covered it. If you have any
I
other
think
like ancillary out of the box questions, I'm happy to talk about them.
Well, I have something. Well, I have something I do at the end of my episodes, with just like a quickie question kind of thing. But like I said, if you ever need an assistant for any of the, or if you want like a critic to come and watch the shows that you're doing, I'm happy to volunteer
Okay.
myself.
I'll,
I'll be up
I'll,
there in a
I'll,
heartbeat.
okay.
So you have to keep me informed.
All right. Well, if the New Orleans show happens, I'll let you know and you can get on a
Oh,
plane and come see
yes.
it. Yeah.
Oh, I will. I have every excuse. My daughters live in New York, so I have
Oh,
every
great.
excuse. So them and the theater, I don't need any other reasoning. That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Good.
it.
Come
Oh,
on
well,
up and
thank you
see
so
us.
much for being here. Oh, absolutely. But thank you so much for joining me today. I love your stories and just what an exciting life.
It was my
I'm
pleasure.
just,
I'm glad to be asked.
oh no, I was thrilled. When I met you that evening, I was just mesmerized by the stories that you had to say and the information and your personal experiences and knowledge of everything. It was a great honor to have you on today. So thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Before I let you go though, I do a thing at the
Okay.
end of every episode called
Oh,
Quickie
this is the
Questions. Are you
speed quiz.
game?
Yes. Yeah,
This
sure.
is
Why
the
not?
this is the
I may not have
yeah, why
answers,
not?
but yeah.
That's okay. First childhood memory.
Earliest childhood memory of any kind. Is
Any
that what you're
kind.
asking?
Yeah.
My first childhood memory, and I hope it's a true memory, is of being lifted out of a crib after a nap, but at my
Really?
grandmother's house in Connecticut. And I because it's a crib, I sometimes doubt that it's really a true memory, but I do have it.
Right. You
And
think
I was
maybe you
being
were
lifted.
lifted out of a drawer or something else instead of a
No,
crib?
no, I remember being on my belly and having two big hands of my grandmother's maid, who was named Estelle
Oh.
Dunmore, lifting me out of the crib. This could be completely made up,
Oh no, but it seems
but
it's so
I do remember
real.
it. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. That's a good memory. Okay, what's your favorite journey?
Favorite journey, favorite travel journey of our lives was to the Galapagos Islands,
Oh, wow. Did you go with your
which
family?
is went with our family when our kids were teenagers, young teenagers, and on a very small boat with, I don't know, 12 other people or something. It was an amazing, completely amazing experience.
Wow, that sounds beautiful. Okay, best advice you ever got and you still follow to this day.
Did I ever get any? Um, no, although Lanford's advice after he decided not to throw a
Oh, I was going to
margarita
say
glass
with the
at me,
margarita throwing. Okay.
yeah, but he picked up the glass and then he put it down again. And he said to me, when you're talking to an author whose work you appreciate and you're talking about a specific line in a play, find a word that isn't cliche. Because I guess I had used the word cliche and it really pissed him off. And
Uh-oh. Yeah.
I've often thought of that. I mean, that's a dramaturgical piece of advice. I've probably gotten other pieces of advice about other things, but
Okay,
that one
but
does
that one
stick with me.
stuck.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you have a daily ritual, either to start your day or end your day or?
Well, yes, my wife and I do three games in the New York Times:
Oh, I
Wordle,
love that.
Connections, and uh, the one that has the spangram in it, whatever it's called. Um,
Oh, yeah. No, I have that here. I forgot the name of it, but I do them every day.
yeah, we
The
do.
Insta, wait, hold on. I'm going to, right now. Do you do octortle or
No,
quartal?
no,
Oh, those are great. You have to do those.
I don't do the games where you have to spell because I can't spell.
No, but it's instead of Wordle is just four, and then Quartle is like, no, Wordle is one. Quartle is doing four at a time, and
Oh,
Octortle is doing
geez.
eight at a time. Oh no, they're great. They're fascinating. But wait, I
Okay,
have the
all
other
right.
one that you're talking about because I do it too every day, and now
Strands.
I've
It's
got
called
to.
strands, right?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah,
Strands. I do
yeah.
strands and connections. Connections is great. And what about
Yeah.
letterbox? Do you do letterbox? Oh, that's spelling. You
No,
don't want to do that one. Okay.
I don't do spelling.
I
I'm
love those. I do
traumatized
this with
because
my daughters every day.
I was such a bad speller in
Oh,
school, and I was, and I went to school in the 50s when teachers weren't necessarily nice. So,
right.
I was teased and I was given a hard time because my spelling was so terrible.
Okay, so what's your Wordle go-to word that you start with then?
We don't have one. We know that the bot likes slate, but we try to do different ones.
Oh my God. So every day you do a different one? That's so good. Okay,
Well, I mean,
great.
no, we end up repeating them a lot because train is a good
They
word.
work, right?
Yeah, right,
They
yeah.
work. Okay, do you have a favorite song from either the Great American Songbook or from a musical?
Weirdly enough, I wouldn't say this is my favorite song by any means, but the song that I find myself humming inside my head and sometimes whistling publicly is a song called That Old Piano Roll, which was cut from Follies, but it's in the underscoring at the beginning of Follies. The
Oh, I
music
have to
is,
check it out now.
and it and
Old
it
piano roll?
that old piano roll. Listen to that old
Mm-hmm.
piano roll play, and that piece of music is the piece of music that never leaves me for more than a day or two. And I don't know why. I
Really?
have absolutely no idea why.
Oh, I have to check that out now. I can't, they cut it from
It's in
Follies, you said?
it was cut from Follies. It's in the underscoring is in there's a long entrance of the guests kind of scene at the beginning of Follies
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
all underscored. There's no singing in it. And it's in there. As each principal person comes in, another
Comes in.
different melody plays. Um, and this one because it got cut and I don't even know who was supposed to sing it originally. Um, it's very up tempo and kind of jazzy.
Oh, I
You'll
like
hear
that.
it
I
when
have
you
to
hear
check
it.
that out. Oh,
You'll
I'm
hear it when
definitely
you
going
hear
to
it.
check that out. Okay. Coolest behind the scenes story you have yet to share.
Well, the coolest is also the cruelest.
Oh, no.
Um, we did a show. It was the first play I was the lead producer on. I actually found the script and functioned as a lead producer working for Jujamcyn. Was a comedy called I Hate Hamlet. And it was written by Paul Rudnick, who later went on to write many more successful things. Um, but it was really funny. And it was about a kid who's a television star, sort of shallow television star, who's been cast as Hamlet in a Shakespeare in the Park production in New York. And he's terrified and doesn't know what to do or how to do, but he lives in John Barrymore's apartment in New York because he has so much money from
Right.
his television series.
Right.
And the ghost of John Barrymore comes back to teach him how to act Shakespeare. And the actor playing John Barrymore was an English actor, now no longer with us, named Nicol Williamson, who was a terrible person and B, a terrible drunk. And I never saw him sober once in my life. And
Wow.
the kid playing the kid was a kid named Evan Handler, who I think still works,
Yeah.
probably mostly in television. Um, and they hated each other, but Nicol really hated Evan Handler. And he behaved badly in every possible way to him and to everybody, including me. And at the end of Act One, there was a scene in which John Barrymore is teaching this kid how to sword fight because in Hamlet there's a sword fight at the
Right.
end.
Right.
And Nicol, who was completely drunk, decided that he was going to try to kill poor Evan Handler with a sword. And he just came at him. I mean, all the blocking was forgotten. And he came at him, and Evan ran out the stage door and down
Oh.
48th Street.
Oh.
Nicole turned to the audience and said, "Well, shall I sing?" The stage manager dropped the curtain.
Oh my God.
Evan never came back to the theater. We closed
Yeah,
the
don't blame
show.
him.
I think the
Oh.
understudy played the part for 2 or 3 nights. And the New
Oh.
York Post ran a front page headline that said, "Broadway sword play turns real,"
Uh-oh.
which you can probably find on the internet if you want
I
to.
will look that
And
up.
that was the
Yeah.
most that was the most terrifying and
Exciting and
unique
thrilling
moment
and terrifying all in one.
yes, exactly, yes, in my long and somewhat you know endless history. It was nothing
Oh.
like that has ever happened to me before or since.
Well, hopefully it doesn't again. Yeah, we don't want that. That's too
No,
much
no, no.
excitement we don't need.
We shouldn't have cast Nicol Williamson. He was in his younger years a brilliant actor,
Uh-huh.
but he just succumbed to the bottle.
Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. Oh, I could talk to you for hours. So
Feel
fascinating.
free.
Oh, no, I might call you again. That's it. That's it's so
Okay,
your stories
that's
are
all right.
incredible and the life you've led is incredible and well, are you coming back down again to the hub?
I hope so. They have to book us.
Oh, well, I
And
need to
Rebecca
tell
Cooper,
them.
who's our artistic director, she's in charge of all that stuff. I just go where I'm told
I need to
and
harass
read my
them.
little piece.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
please do.
need to harass them. Well, thank you
We
so
have a
much.
bunch of other shows that we do. So,
Down here or in New York?
no, I mean, no, we just have them in our pocket. You
Oh,
want, we
yeah,
have a Berlin
no.
show, we have a 60s show, we have we
Oh,
could easily,
I think I
we could
voted
easily
on
do,
all of them.
okay, well,
I
there you
just
go.
need to harass her a little bit more. So
Yeah, give them a hard time
I will.
on my behalf.
I will on my behalf too. Oh, thank you so much again. I really
Okay,
appreciate it. It was a great honor
my
to be
pleasure.
here. Do you want to stay on for a minute while I do my outro and we can talk after? Do you have
Sure.
time?
Do you want me
Okay,
to?
yeah, sure. Hold on just a second.
Sure.
To our listeners, thank you so much. So grateful you're here. Keep listening, keep learning, keep laughing, keep up with Beek on Being. Listen to Beek on Being wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes are automatically transcribed. DM us to share thoughts, ideas, or nominate a guest. A big shout out and a huge thank you to Stephen Chen at Penthouse Studios. Beek on Being was recorded at Penthouse Studios and is a proud member of the Penthouse Podcast Network. Thank you. This was so fascinating.
Thank you.
I am
Thank
so
you.
so honored. I could spend all day talking to you. I really do want to know about all of the other productions or things that you're involved in because I do get up there quite frequently and I would love to come to the theater and see it.
Well, there's nothing other than The Outsiders. There's nothing currently playing that I have had anything to do